Hello, friends. I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. We're about to surpass my 4th year making content on YouTube, and every year since the first year, I've done my top 50 videos or top 50 games video in celebration of that milestone, concluding with my top 10 favorite games of all time at that point in life. In other words, the end of February 2026 in this instance. On my anniversary of my first ever video, February 28th. So come February 28th, I will drop my top 10 favorite games of all time as of right now, or at least as of when I put this list together, which was late January. So, I've got to film and edit and everything ahead of time. But as of late January 2026, these are my top 50 favorite games of all time. And when I started this list, I picked 50 over 100 because A, less to worry about, and B, because at that time I only had 200 some games, so it just felt weird to include 50% of every game I had ever played. But now I have over 400 games played, and so top 50, it starts to narrow down a little bit more and a little bit tighter into what my favorite games really, really are. In fact, so much so that I'm thinking about next year doing a whole top 100. So we'll see how I feel when this time comes around next year, whether I actually want to go through with making a whole top 100 list or stick to the top 50. But that said, this is the first time I went through and looked at last year's list after 50. And in doing so, I could see kind of where things that weren't on the list last year, but could have fallen. So that way, some of these new games at the end of the list would have been on my top 100 if I expanded that far. I just didn't. But this year, I definitely expanded past 100 to narrow my list down to these top 50, and I'm pretty happy with it. I did some massaging of the list. But like I do every year, I went to Pub Meeple and put in every game that I own, played, rated, whatever the filters are, to try to get every game I had to show up on that list, and then pick A or B at that very moment. If the two were in front of me, which one would I want to play? Which one do I like more? Whatever the case is, and select that one, and it works its way out. And you do that a couple 100,000 times. Well, not 100,000, 100 to 1,000, 100 comma 1,000 times. A bunch of different matchups for quite a while. A bunch of clicking, probably a couple hours worth of clicking for me in this case. And then I went through and looked at the list compared to last year's list to make sure I didn't miss anything, because that one year that I had a game completely fall out, that would have been in my top 10. So I did massage the list against last year's list and against the new to me games I played and other lists to try to make sure that everything that could make the list actually made the list. I do filter out everything that I rate below 5 or 6, whatever my filter rating is, because those games never have a chance anyway. But I still had 200 some games matching up 100 to 1,000 different matchups to create this list. And then again, I massaged it, not a whole lot, but kind of moved things up and down as I felt right in order to come up with this top 50 list. And I'm pretty happy with where it's at least as of when I put the list together and finalized it. So that was a long-winded introduction. Hopefully I didn't lose you because you're here for the list. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is my first 20, if you didn't see the thumbnail or read the description or anything. I'm looking at my games number 50 to number 31. At number 50 is technically a new to the list game. I don't think it has ever been in any of my lists in the past. I forgot to kind of look back that far. It might have been in my first list. I have enjoyed this game for a while, and it's probably my favorite party style game. It's definitely my favorite social deduction style game. It is Bang, the dice game. And this game plays up to 8 or 9 people taking turns trying to either survive if you're the sheriff or the deputies, kill the sheriff if you're the outlaws, or go on your own and be the last person standing if you're the renegade. And on your turn, you're just going to take the 5 action dice, roll them Yahtzee style, and kind of keep what you want to keep. You get 3 tries, and then after the last roll, you have to keep what's there, which includes shooting people around the board to take their damage. In the meantime, you're dodging arrows from the Indians flying at you. You can heal up or heal up other players, because that could be very handy in the role of the deputies, especially. And a few other actions I can't think of, but mostly you're just trying to eliminate the people around the board to meet your specific objective and slowly deduce who the other characters around the table are, so you know who's your friends and who's your foes, because the only known one is the sheriff. So a lot of fun. I really enjoy playing this one. Definitely better in a big group. It does play like 3 and up, but like any good deduction game, you want a lot of people around the table. So I prefer this one with 6 or more, personally. Yeah. So it's the one I bring out with new people for a quick game when we got a lot of people around the table, because it plays pretty fast and fun. I really enjoy Bang the Dice game. R49 is another new to the list game that was on an old list. The first year I played it, I enjoyed it, and it stuck with me. And I know I threw it on my top 50, even only after one play, because I really enjoyed it. But then it fell off because that time frame had passed, and I hadn't played it in a while. But now I have this new deluxe edition, which includes a solo mode. So I've played it 3 times since Puerto Rico arrived. Puerto Rico 1890, whatever. Puerto Rico. I've got the new Awaken Realms version, the upgraded version. The solo mode specifically is the reason I ordered it. But this is a lead follow game where 1 to 4 players or 5 players maybe take an action from the available action tiles, and they're going to do that action with the bonus advantage of being the one who chose that action. But then going around the table, everybody else gets a chance to take that action as well. And then after each round, you reset the turns, you pass the turn order, and you do it again and again. And what you're doing is you're building up your player board of different buildings and different farms where you're going to produce different goods and try to sell them, or utilize your buildings to score points and get special abilities when you take certain actions. All kinds of different things. A whole bunch of new building tiles in the new one I haven't even got to yet. But this game is just kind of a race to get points, because the game ends once all the points are taken from the game. You're racing to get points. You're taking lead follow actions. So you need to start trying to figure out what everybody else around the table is going to do on their turn, so you can prepare for it. Because if they take an action that you're not ready for, you're not going to get anything out of it. So you always want to make sure you can produce goods. You always want to make sure you have workers in the right place to be able to do the things they're going to do, like to harvest those goods so you can sell them. You want to have goods available to be sold when that time comes, or traded. I guess it is not really what. Actually, there are 2 different actions: trade action and sell action. You get points for trading, you get money for selling. So depending on what that action is, you want to make sure you have the right goods in the right place, because there's only so many spots on the trade ships, and you could be left out of that action at certain times. So it's just a lot to manage with the lead follow action and heavy Euro. It's not even that heavy, but the Euro themes really shine through in what you're doing, utilizing resources and the ability with the tight money and everything to make some solid choices. So Puerto Rico back on the list after I got this new edition and been able to play it again with the solo mode. Number 48 is a game that's been drifting and hovering around the end of the list. It technically was 51 last year, so it just missed the list. I know the year before it was probably in the 40s or 30s, but this is Endless Winter Paleo Americans. And this is one of those games that just kind of has it all. You got workers you're moving to get different resources. You got sideboards, so one of your actions is going to work on the sideboard where you're placing tents and getting resources. There's another action where you're going to work on the other sideboard and kind of build up and score points based on placement of everybody and who you're covering as you build up kind of a pyramid of your personal tiles. There's actions to collect animal cards that you can use for meat that you're going to need for other things, or use for set collection to collect various different animal types. So there's just a lot going on, and then there's expansions I haven't even touched, which have even more things. This is a game I actually haven't played in a while, Endless Winter Paleo Americans, so it could fall off if I don't table it again soon. But it's just one of those fun, thinky games that has a little bit of this and a little bit of that going on. And I always enjoy those games. So that's why Endless Winter Paleo Americans is kind of still hovering around on my list. Number 47 is a game that was number 39 last year. So the first little fall. The other 3 kind of rose from off the list or are new to the list. This one was number 39 last year, so it fell 8 places, and it's Isle of Cats. And I really enjoy this game still. It's a placement polyomino collecting cats from the island that is under threat and putting them on your ship. And it's got a family-friendly style where basically that's all you're doing is collecting, drafting basically the cats from the pile and add them to your table, and not much else going on. But the real meat of the game is the fact that you're card drafting. You draft a card, hand of cards, you're going to keep one or two and then pass them and look at the next hand that comes your way. Keep one or two, I think it is again, pass it around. And you're doing that until you have passed all the cards. And then you've got to decide how many cards you're going to purchase, because purchasing them costs you your fish resources. And you need those fish resources to also collect cats. So it's really this managing of which action cards do I want, and the action cards are going to determine your speed, which is your order of drafting the cats. They could serve as in-game scoring. They could serve as bonus cats and abilities, objectives that everybody can go for, private objectives that only you can go for. All kinds of different things, but you're not going to be able to afford them all and still be able to get cats on your ship. So it really is balancing the cards that are best for you while maintaining what you need to go get the cats, because you need baskets also on your cards to collect the cats too. So it's just a lot of fun, a lot of managing things, cute little theme. Again, it comes with the family-friendly mode and the hard mode, so it's good for everybody. Basically, any group can play. From the littlest of kids when I first got this to now, my daughters are both old enough to play the adult version. It's another one, just hasn't been tabled in a while, so that's probably part of the reason for the fall. And speaking of fall, number 46 is Fall of Rome, formerly Pandemic Fall of Rome. It's a pandemic style game where you've got your Visigoths and Goths and 4 or 5 different factions coming to try to sack Rome. And it's your job to thwart them or to align with them by using the normal pandemic style of having X amount of cards and going to a spot and then laying those cards out. And when you go to a spot with that alliance, with that faction, and lay down the correct number of cards, it's 3, 4, or 5, I think, depending on which of the factions is and how many of them come out, you will make an alliance with them. So you don't even have to kill them off the map. You can make alliances with them to win. So you're probably going to finish most games by eradicating 2 or 3 of them and then making alliances with the other 1 or 2. But that's what you're doing. You're going around and you're protecting all the cities that lead to Rome by making alliances or by defeating them through your actions. It's just a fun pandemic style game. I always liked Pandemic. You might see it later on the list. But Fall of Rome is a unique little twist that I really like. I like the theme and I like the play style. Just the tweak enough to keep it new and interesting for me. So Fall of Rome or Pandemic Fall of Rome, my number 46 game. It was number 32 last year, so this one fell off a bit too. Again, so many games, so little time. Some of these are just going to fall from lack of play. Number 45, we have a game that was 30 last year, so it's fallen 15 spots. It's probably going to rise again. Pun kind of intended. It's Dune Imperium Uprising. This game's a lot of fun. It's another one of those little bit of everything game. You got worker placements, you got really tight resource management. You've even got a little battlefield that's going to take place every round, and it's a race to 10 points. Points are so hard to come by in this game, and it's got deck builder actions. So you're building up more and more of your deck because those are going to allow you to do the different actions because you're limited by the cards you have in hand as to what actions you can even do on any round. And that's my one little about the game is sometimes you just get a bad hand and your round's kind of busted. And if that's a round where you could have otherwise done really well based on other aspects of the board or board state and things like that, you can really be done over by a bad hand, just not having the one icon you need to go to the one location you need to go to in order to secure basically a point or two for that round. So that's a little bit frustrating, but otherwise, a really fun game that has a little bit of everything. I haven't played the original Dune Uprising, Dune Imperium, just Uprising, but from what I understand, it's basically the same game with fixes, upgraded, updated, whatever, and it works with the original expansions as well. So Dune Imperium Uprising is a game that I enjoy. Number 45. Number 44 is a game that's fallen 20 places, so three in a row with a little bit of drop, but that's to make room for games to rise, right? And new games to come on the list. Although I will caveat, other than these ones that hovered near the list, I think there's only two brand spanking new games on this list, two or three. So not a great year for the new games. If you watch the new to me games from last year, you kind of have an idea of what they are, but not where they're going to show up. But otherwise, not a lot of movement from new games this time around. Quite a bit of movement from old favorites. Anyway, my number 44 is Shadows over Camelot. It was number 24 last year. And again, this is just kind of lack of play. I really like the theme of you are one of the Knights of the Round Table. It plays up to 7 players and it can do it really well. And it's got that secret traitor mechanism where one of them around the table could be working against you. But if you call them out, then that hurts them. So they don't want to make it obvious they're working against you. And the game's hard enough that they don't really have to, because I've had no traders and we've still lost. But I really like that style of game. I like the fact that it's fun and plays 7. And I find that rare too outside of party games. Like I mentioned with Bang the Dice game. That's a nice little party game, plays quick, plays a bunch of people. Shadows over Camelot doesn't play as quick. It's a longer, more meaty game with a lot going on, a lot to manage. It's just a lot of fun. It's that semi-cooperative, possible hidden traitor game with a good Arthurian theme or a good Monty Python theme, depending on your group, I guess. But a lot of fun. Another one I just haven't tabled in a while. Number 43 could have made the list last year as a brand new game. Just missed it. It was number 54. So technically, I guess it's risen 11 spots. It was a new game last year. It's Shipwrights of the North Sea, the Redux version. The game where you're having a hand of cards and you're drafting from those. I've never played it with a group, but in a group, you're going to actually pass cards around and draft one or two at a time, like normal hand drafting games are. But once you get your hand of cards, that's what you're going to do. And they're multi-use cards. You can build ships, you can place workers, you can build buildings, but you got the resources to do all that. So sometimes you're just going to discard the cards to get the resources. There's a couple workers you can place, and you can earn more workers depending on some of the cards you are able to play. Your buildings can help you build more workers, and you're going to use everything to gain resources to build ships. You are shipwrights. You're trying to, in the end, build ships, and then those ships are going to give you points and bonuses or in-game scoring, and you're going to play through a handful of rounds. I think it's 4 or 5 rounds, and then see who won. There's also some tracks you're racing up, and if you're highest on the track, you're actually going to get a helper from that track each round as kind of a free action or a bonus. So you do want to manage your tracks, and in order to get up those tracks, you're going to have built the ships that require those tracks. It's a good little thinky balancing game, drafting game. I really enjoy it. It's a great solo game because it is just kind of that puzzle of doing the best you can with the cards you get every round. And then you've got an opponent who's just kind of moving up the tracks to keep things honest. So, I like it. Shipwrights of the North Sea, good Garfield game. There's going to be a few more of those on this list, I'm sure. Number 42 will raise a lot from last year when it wasn't on the list, but apparently it was number 85 last year. That might be a lie. I didn't really massage the back end of the list, but either way, Thunder Road Vendetta is a game that isn't my kind of game. It's random. It's silly. I'm not an action movie person. I like dramas and comedies. But this is Mad Max Fury Road, basically the board game, which is pretty much a straight action film. So it's not my kind of game, not my kind of theme, but it's just so fun, so random. And you got to force the random for it, I think, to be fun. You can't try to strategize. And I do that every time I teach it to new players. Is everybody's trying to be cautious and race, and that's not what the game is about. The game will never end if all you're doing is racing. So I throw caution in the wind right from the start and show them that we're going to crash into each other, we're going to shoot each other, we're going to try to take each other out, because that ultimately is how you want to win the game, is by being the last car standing. But Thunder Road Vendetta is just a lot of crazy, silly fun, and I want to get some more of the expansions and just get more of that crazy variety from the expansions. Number 41 fell just 5 little spots, so basically in the same spot as last year. It is Sky Team. Sky Team, I think, was one of my favorite new to me games from last year, and it's still a great game. It's a 2-player cooperative game where you're playing pilot and co-pilot of a ship, and you're just trying to land at various airports, but you got to do all the right things in order to be able to land. And there's no talking. You're just using action dice, not even action dice, real dice, and you're putting them on action spots. And some of the spots you have to put dice on, such as the brakes and the keeping your plane flat. But sometimes with some of the advanced things, you need to make sure you've got the right tilt in the plane to combat the wind and the weather cards. And there's still so much in the box I haven't even explored. But this is a two-player game, so it makes it harder for me to explore a lot of it because I don't always have that two-player count. But Sky Team, I just love the theme. I love the game itself. It's so much fun. Number 41. Number 40 is a game that I go through waves with it, and right now it's on again. In fact, I played it yesterday. So that's how on it is. It is After Us. But this one was not on the list last year. It might have been on the list year before. Or I don't think it was though. I think it's always been hovering in kind of the 70s range. But here it is now at number 40. After Us is just this little tableau building game, deck building game, resource management game, where you're drawing 4 cards from your deck and laying them out in whatever order you want to generate the engine from left to right, top to bottom, to get resources, to create points from your engine, or to buy more apes into your engine. And it's a lot of fun. I just enjoy it. Plays quick. It's a race to 80 points. So the better your engine is, usually the quicker you can kind of generate those resources and those points that you need. Each different type of ape has its own special focus. So while you can't see the cards that you're buying, you have an idea of what you're going to get from them. So, the mandrills are going to be mostly based around points, where the chimpanzees are going to be based around replaying one of your actions from your grid of cards from your engine. I just like engine building. I like deck building, and this kind of combines the two. And I love apes, so it's got that theme going for it as well. And that's what drew me into it in the first place, was just the theme. And then the gameplay is really good too. I think some of the problem with it is, it does get samey, but because I hadn't played in a while, and then again recently, it kind of popped it back on this list here. My number 39 just missed the list last year. Might have been on the year before. It is Vinyos. This is a Vital Lacerda game, which means it's a heavy, heavy game. And I think, not peeking ahead, I can see through 31 right now, but I don't remember what 30 through number 1 are. But I'm pretty sure Vinyos is my favorite Vital Lacerda game right now. And it's the wine building game. So the theme is just easy to get. You need a vineyard to make grapes, to make wine. And so, unlike the weather machine, where the theme is hard to wrap your head around to figure out what you need to do, Vinios, I find it really easy to know what you need to do. And the only complexity comes from at the end of the season, when you kind of do the wine festival. But that's not even super complex. As if you've got a decently good aged wine, you can generally generate some points there. But there is some nuance to make sure you've got your vinatiers, your wine people. It's been a while since I played this, but you get some kind of helper cards that can help you boost different aspects of it. And you can build up your vineyard to help boost things up as well. Or you can just buy grapes and make wine, and buy grapes and make wine. Probably not going to win that way. And the cool thing about this one, it is a worker placement. You've got a 3x3 grid where your worker is going to move and kind of dictate the actions you're going to do. And your worker has to move to an adjacent area. So you kind of got to set up your rotation to work out for you, because if you break that rule, you can do it, but you're going to have to pay money, and the money's tight. And anytime you go to a space with another worker on it, somebody else's person, you're actually going to give them a dollar. So that's a nice little mechanism for the worker placement while you're building up your vineyard and trying to sell your wines or exhibit them at the competition at the end of each season to score a bunch of points. Number 38 has fallen 15 spots, and this is one that kind of comes and goes with how I feel about it. It is Space Base. And I've never not liked Space Base. But again, it's not my kind of game. It's random, but it's got that engine building. from the random. So I've grown to love it more and more because people around me like it more and more. So I've played it more and more. And then I realized that it's not just a random game. It's a random game where you control your randomness as best you can based on the cards you're buying at the end of each round and adding to your space, your bases. Because as you add a new card to your base, you're actually going to take the card that was in that base and flip it and send out space. And now that card's going to activate every time somebody rolls that number on their turn. So you want to cycle cards out into space so that way you're getting things when it's not your turn. And then when it is your turn, you're getting better things, usually from what's in your base. And you're able to purchase new cards to add to your base. And you're just doing that. And it's another one of those games where everybody's always interactive because every time somebody rolls the dice, you're checking to see what you get from that roll. And early on, it's nothing. But as the game goes on and on, you're sitting there, come on, roll that 9, roll the 9, roll the 9, roll a 9, roll a 9, because two dice added together. And every time one of your opponents rolls a 9, now you've got like 4 cards that are triggering, and you're just booming up those tracks. So Space Base, a random thinky-ish game. I just really enjoyed that one. 37 was 28 last year, so it fell 9 spots. And this is Lacrimosa, the Mozart card action game where every turn you're putting 2 cards from your hand onto your board. The top part is going to be what action you're taking right now, and the bottom of the other card is going to be the resources you generate at the end of the round that you're going to use for next round. So you're managing what actions do I want to take with the cards I have available, with what resources do I want to generate for next round, knowing that these same cards are going to, shuffle back in again. But not all the cards. I forget. I think you get 9 cards and you use 8 of them every round, something like that. But as you buy new cards, you're actually going to mill automatically. You're never going to have more than the 9 or 10 cards that you start with. But you can mill out those starter cards and get the better cards every round, which give you more options and more actions and more resources as the game goes on. And it's got that area control that is the Lacrimosa part as you're putting notes into place of this great symphony, I guess it is. I'm not a music person, but I do like Mozart's music. But you're you're finishing his Lacrimosa in an area control. But that's just one of the actions you can do. The other actions are you can purchase 2 different types of cards, either the cards that are going to be your action cards or the cards that are kind of going to be your helper cards that you can either use one time and basically kill them off with an action and get a reward, or you can tap them and get like their one-time action and keep the card. And the main part of the board is the actual map where Mozart's going around from city to city. And every time you go to a city, you're actually collecting the things from that city, which could give you a bonus turn or free money or free resources, whatever the case is, or in-game scoring tiles. But you got to be able to pay to move. So you need to make sure you've got enough money to move to that action tile you really want. It's a lot of fun. Lacrimosa, it's kind of a little bit of everything game, but mostly it's just an action selection and resource management game. My number 36 is a game that has risen 4 places, so just a little bit of movement. Another one just kind of hovering in this area. I think for every one of my years, it's been kind of in this area because this is one of the first games I ever owned. It is Five Tribes, the Gins of Nicola, whatever. 5 Tribes. Everybody knows the 5 Tribes. And this is one of the most analysis paralysis prone games that exist because before your turn, the board state's going to change. And after your turn, the board state's going to change. And what it is it's a grid. I think it's 5x5 grid of tiles. And those tiles have actions on them. And at the beginning of the game, all those tiles have meeples on them. I think it's 4, 3 or 4 each. And you're going to choose a tile and take all the meeples from that tile and then one by one drop them on some adjacent tile in some pattern. And the last meeple you drop, that's the meeples you're going to collect. So every meeple of that color from the tile you landed on, you're going to collect. And the meeples do something for you. I think there's 5 or 6 different colors. So they lead to 5 or 6 different actions depending on the color of the meeple. And the tile you finish on also has an action that you're going to do. So you're just managing what's the best combo of actions for me to get the meeples I want for whatever purpose, mostly points. And what is the tile I want for its action purpose. And more importantly, if you clear every meeple off a tile, you now own that tile and you get to put your little tower on it. And you're going to score that tile for its points at the end of the game as well. So it's just things that you're managing. But the board state, because the meeples are constantly moving based on the person before you's actions, you're really going to spend a lot of time thinking. And the cool thing about this is for turn order every round, you're actually going to secretly bid your points, your points, your hard-earned points, the things you need to win. You're bidding because guess what? You know when the board state's not going to change? Between rounds. So if you're the first player in the next round, you know exactly what the board looks like for your turn. So if there's a juicy move you really need to take, you might want to bid enough to make sure you go first. So I like that little aspect of it because it's that little tweak, that little I'm bidding the points I need to make sure I can get the action I need to hopefully get enough points to win. But if I'm bidding 7 and the next highest bid is 3, I just wasted 4 points. I love five tribes. I found a new solo version, so I've been able to get this one to the table a little bit more than I would otherwise, and so it keeps it alive for me. It's a great game. My number 35 is a game that's fallen quite a bit. It was number 13. I think this one's fallen because I don't want to say I played it out because I definitely haven't, but I haven't played in a while because I just haven't had the right group to do it, and I played out the solo mode. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely like playing this one with more people than solo. It is Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Even though it's got a great solo mode, I've got all the new boards except now there's another new expansion coming out. I don't know if I'm gonna get that one. I have to keep an eye out, see if it's worth it. But right now I can play up to 8 players worth of Heat, Pedal to the Metal, whether I'm playing alone or with 7 other friends. But this is the racing game that feels like a racing game, and you're using your hand of cards to spend movement points to race around the track. But you got to be careful because every time you hit a curve, if you go too fast around the curve, you're going to crash and wipe out and probably not win the race. So I just really like managing the movement, the racing, and more importantly, the heat. Because if you manage your heat right, you can go around the curves fast and just spin your heats from your engine and then hopefully get it back later before you need it again. And that's really what the nature of the game is managing that heat as you're racing around these racetracks. A lot of fun game. Still my number 35 a favorite game of all time as of right now, but it has fallen out of the top 15 where it was last year when it was a lot more fresh. My number 34 game this year fell from 21, and it used to be in my top 10. I don't know if it ever was in my top 10. But Altiplano is a game I still really enjoy, even though I enjoy its brother more. So that one will show up later on the list. But Altiplano is a bag building game and a little bit of action management game because unlike some other bag builders where you're going to pull the things out of the bag and then use those to do whatever they do, in the case of Orleans and Altiplano, you're using them to place and take those actions to get more of those resources into your bag to do the other things around the board. In this game, you're collecting, resources and objectives that you can turn in. You're throwing them into your holding area. I don't remember what it's called exactly, where you're going to get points based on how much you can get into your little holding cell, granary, whatever it is, at the end of the game. You're collecting all kinds of different things, but the difference in this game is you're also having to manage where your traveler is because you can only take actions at the spot your traveler's on, and you get 1 free movement every turn, up to 3 places. I think it's enough to get you to any other spot, but that's it. You've got to use some actions to take movement cubes, and there's a limited supply of those. So if you take too long to get more movement cubes, you're not going to get any more movement cubes. They're going to be gone from your opponents taking them. But you want to move that person around. If you want to take actions at 3 different locations, you're going to need to move them 3 times, which means, yeah, you get 1 for free, and maybe you're sitting on one of the spots. So like you could start with that action, but to go to any other spots, you're gonna have to spend those movement cubes to do it. It's a lot of fun managing the worker placement along with that little bit more Euro-ness than Orleans has, and that's why I still enjoy Altiplano. It probably is on the list higher than it needs to be. I know it's on the list higher than everybody else puts it because it's so similar to Orleans, but I think it's different enough to keep it fun and fresh, and I just enjoy it. So it stays on my list at number 34. Number 33 was number 33 last year, so there it is right there. Stay put. Legendary, a Marvel deck building game. It was one of the first games I got once I realized I could put together some game groups. I mention this every time, but Marvel's not really my thing. I don't care about superheroes, whatever. What I do like is deck building, and what I do like is when other people are into the theme. So if everybody else wants to come play Marvel game with me, there we go. I've got one that we all enjoy. But Marvel deck building game, you're basically drafting the superheroes that you kind of select or randomly determine at the beginning of the game to try to thwart whatever the big bad guy is and the special scheme that he's got going on. And you have to beat him up 3 times with your various fighting powers. But like normal deck builders, you're basically using your early actions to purchase better cards, in this case, the superheroes. And then they might be able to help you purchase better superheroes, or they might play off of each other. That's kind of the big theme with this one, is they build off of each other. So you don't want to just randomly grab superheroes. You want to kind of have a little bit of a theme to your deck. But there's so much fun just building it, thwarting, you're clearing out the city from all the little henchmen and villains that are coming along, and they're doing different things when they come out or get killed off or whatever the case is. And it's just kind of a race against time to try to beat the bad guy before you lose to the scheme. Um, Everybody I've taught this to, everybody I've played with, everybody enjoys this one. And I'm eager to get my hands on the Game of Thrones Legendary, because I like Game of Thrones a whole lot better than I like Marvel. Although I don't think that one's cooperative, so I'm interested in seeing how that one plays out too. And hopefully it has a solo mode. I haven't looked into it much ever since it was announced. It just excited me, and I keep waiting to see it so I can get my hands on it. This is the biggest riser of the ones that have been on the list previously, moving up 14 spots from number 46 to number 32. It is the second Garfield game on this list, if you keep track, and still not going to be the last one on my top 50. I guarantee it. But it is Wayfarers of the South Tigers, and this is my favorite of the South Tigers games, the most recent trilogy of games. Wayfarers is the one where you're building up your tableau of land and sea cards. Using dice is kind of the theme of all the South Tigers games, but in this one you're using dice and workers to take actions, workers and dice to generate the resources you need to take actions to get the cards you want, and you build out your tableau, and they're going to be icons and things that are going to help you do your actions easier. They're going to score you points. You can collect base cards to put above your skies, which, I mean, to put in the sky, I guess, above your land and sea cards, but you have to have had them out as well. You can get workers that'll tuck and make your actions more powerful when you take actions on certain locations. A lot of things going on in this one. I really like that. Again, mentioned what this is my third or fourth. A lot of things going on game in this part of the list. So Wayfarers of the South Tigers, just a lot of fun. A good thinky game, and I think it's got the best solo mode of most of the Garfield games too. So good balance there. And finally, rounding out this list is my number 31 game. Was number 38 last year. I know it was number 50-ish the year before or 2 years ago. It is Rumble Nation. This game I just really enjoy, and it just got released in America, I think, within the last year, or is getting released soon. I've got the game, so I haven't kept up with that news, but I know it's a lot easier, or will be a lot easier for everybody else to get their hands on. I know when I first got this, I just kind of got lucky to have found an imported version after hearing about the game and checking out myself. But this is a game where you're spinning a phase, basically just sending troops to the board based on 3 dice rolls. You're going to send them out to the one spot of the math of 2 of those dice, the number of troops equal to half of the other die, rounded up. So if you roll like 2 5s and a 6, basically you can send 3 troops to their spot 10 for the 2 5s, or 3 troops to the spot 11 for the 5 and 6. And that spot now has your troops on it. And once everybody runs out of troops, then you move on to phase 2, where you see how the battles play out in each of the zones, starting with zone 2. Whoever has the most troops in that zone wins it and gets 2 points. Whoever has the second most troops in that zone gets half of that point, so 1 point. And whoever won that zone now branches out to every adjacent zone with 1 or 2, depending on player count, additional troops from the neutral supply. So if you play your cards right, you can win those low battles and start sending reinforcements out to the high battles that you previously weren't winning. As long as you got one troop in the zone, you can get those reinforcements added in. So it's about managing the flow of what's going to happen in phase 2 during phase 1 as best you can, because again, you got to roll the dice kind of the right way to make it work. But I really enjoy Rumble Nation. It's one of those few random dudes in a map game that I really get into, and I think it could be good for you too. It's pretty quick playing, set up and go again, play once real quick through, kind of learn the game, and then play it for real. And there you have it. The first 20 of my top 50 games of all time as of 2026. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe below if you want to catch the next one next week as I go through number 30 to 11. And then join me in celebration on my 4-year anniversary of my YouTube channel as I count down my top 10 favorite games of all time on February 28th. So you definitely want to make sure you subscribe, get the notifications, whatever you need to do to make sure you're back for the next videos. And stick along after that. I know everybody loves these videos, but I do produce other videos, other lists, other chats, some game reviews. It's been a while since I did one of those, but I promise there will be more coming. And just general anything in the board game realm. I would love to see you come back in the future. And finally, comment below your thoughts on the games I mentioned in this list, and what are some of your favorite games that cross over with mine at this point in time. 30 more on the way for sure. If you haven't seen my previous videos, maybe you can take some guesses at what some of them are, and maybe you'll be surprised, maybe you won't. But I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.